Hello everyone, it's Fuad and Flexen. You can guess which one's which. And we're back with the second edition of Chat Shiz. I have to be careful every time I say that. Get banged. And Fuad's got the shades on again.
The boy is back in the building for episode 2 of what's controversially called the greatest show on YouTube.
Episode 2, let's hope it's better than Star Wars Episode 2. It can't be much worse, let's be honest. But a lot's been happening in boxing. We've actually got some UK boxing on the horizon.
Woo!
Oh,
I wish we had like sound effects where we could like put Hadouken or something like that just to make it, you know.
We spent all the budget on your hair.
Yeah,
so we've got
wow.
Wow. Glasses, of course.
The glasses cost $1,000, bro. They're fresh.
But as you'll see from the title, Frank Warren comes first. No, stop snickering at the back. He is the first UK promoter to come back with a show. Friday night, BT Sport. I think it's from either 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. I haven't got the TV guide. I haven't got the radio times in front of me at the moment. There's one for the older viewers there. But he's coming back. He's got Brad Foster defending British and Commonwealth Super Bantamweight titles against James Beach. And Hamza Shiraz, hot prospect, still very young on the undercard. How pumped up are you, Fuad, for this? I can see already.
No, let's be honest. You're just happy. I'm just happy for the boys who are boxing again. You know, from a viewer's point of view, you know, it's gonna be entertainment for people who are hardcore boxing fans who want to tune in. But it's nothing to get super pumped up about unless you know you're part of the teams. I mean, with all due respect, you know, it's going to be hard to be pumped up for that whole event. But all in all, I'm just happy for the boys who are boxing because at the end of the day, forget our entertainment. It's their careers. It's their job. So at least they've got their job back essentially, and that's why we should be happy more than anything.
That's Fuad comfortably off of Frank Warren's Christmas card list, but never mind. Maybe you weren't on there to begin with.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
But the big news this week, aside from boxing being back in the UK, something that broke recently is that we may soon see Ryan Garcia take a step up against Luke Campbell in a battle between annoyingly good-looking boxers, I have to say, bit envious of that side of it, and obviously they can box as well. Now, the fight's not definitely on, but Garcia's team have shown a willingness to enter into negotiations for the fight for the WBC interim belt and mandatory position to fight the world champion Devin Haney. What do you make of it all?
Great, because well, actually, no, Danny. How am I meant to say this? We were talking about it off air a bit, but can we really get excited about a fight until the actual date of the fight? Like boxing's just like that, innit? But no, it's obviously apparently they've accepted the offer to fight, and if that is true, big props to Ryan Garcia. He's a young kid. He's got a lot of weight on his shoulders because of his profile. He's already a huge star, you could say. So he's already got that pressure on him. He's outspoken. People are going to pick on him. So for him to turn around and say, you know what, I'm going to show you guys that I've got the balls to do this. And he's turned around and he's taken, well, what seems like he's taken the Luke Campbell fight. What's your thoughts on it?
It's hard to assess how big a risk he's taking. So there seems to be this massive, maybe not massive, but a certain groundswell of opinion on social media that Garcia deserves huge credit for taking this fight. But I think a lot of that's because most people expected him to avoid it and maybe take the WBO sanctioned eliminator with Manuel Tago instead, or Tago, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. So that's kind of, is it a big step up? Yes, definitely. For the guys he's been fighting, it's a huge step up. Luke Campbell, Olympic gold medalist, pushed Jorge Linares to the very limit over in the US and gave a good account of himself against Vasily Lomachenko as well. However, did lose both of those fights. Linares contentiously, Lomachenko clearly. Has improved in recent times, I would say, under Shane McGuigan. Probably around his physical and boxing peak now as well. And probably will go into the fight, depending on where it is, maybe as the favourite with the bookmakers as well. But I think from what David Lee said on Twitter earlier, if Garcia is going to be a good fighter, if he's going to be a world-class fighter, then he needs to be taking these fights and he needs to be winning them despite his tender age. He's had the learning fights now, he's had the apprenticeship, and now's the time for him to prove that he really can go to the top level.
For sure, but we have to also remember, you mentioning that he lost those fights. Luke Campbell is very, just because he's not had the most successful Olympic type career, he's an Olympian, and he should be respected a lot more than people who are just saying, it shouldn't be too much of a fight for Ryan Garcia. It's a huge step up, man. It's a massive step up for him.
We've got some questions from our loyal viewers, all 2 of them. No, I'm joking. I'm sure there's loads. So let's start with, actually, we're going to be talking about Billy Joe Saunders anyway, so this might be a nice segue into it. At I'm Stephen G _, so not to be confused with I'm Stephen G, has asked, do you think the Andrade and Billy Joe Saunders fight will happen? Obviously, Saunders, when talking about not fighting Canelo in September, said he's hoping to fight Andrade back down at middleweight, presumably before the end of the year. And if it does happen, who wins and why?
Will it happen? I hate answering those questions now. How am I meant to know? Am I Eddie Hearn? Am I his man? It's hard, bro. Come on, you're a boxing fan. You know it better than me. Boxing is so unpredictable with fights. One minute you've got the greatest show on earth. Next minute, you're just talking about a fight for 7 years. Like, you don't know if it's gonna happen or not. It's impossible to tell.
Skip straight to part B then. That's fine. If it happens, who wins and why?
If it happens, it's hard to bet against Billy Joe, man. It's hard to bet against Billy Joe because, we've only seen him in one, what we say, real tough fight against Canada. What's his name? Lemieux. But even then, it's like we haven't seen him against the top creme de la creme fighter. But I don't like betting against Billy Joe because he's a very awkward middleweight. He's got the whole skill set. We've never seen him lose. So how can you bet against him?
Yeah, it's a difficult one because Andrade is equally awkward, probably almost as skillful, if not as skillful, but has the range and the height advantages. So it's kind of like fighting a mirror image of yourself, yet a bigger version. And that could be crucial, especially if the fight is back down at middleweight rather than up at super middle. So, I'd want to see a bit close to the fight, what form they were both in, what they look like on the scales and so on. But I think Andrade would start favourite and for good reason. But I think they're both fighters who have yet to have that real top-level test. So if it does come against each other, I think that would be great.
Yeah, I was really disappointed when the first fight didn't happen. That was so heartbreaking because I was looking forward to it. It built some American hype. It was when we first, had that transition of the whole DAZN thing happening.
What did you think about Saunders not taking the Canelo fight for September? He said it was partly because he was doing stuff during the lockdown period, so he wasn't able to train effectively, and also the payday wasn't what he'd originally been promised, obviously, because of the restrictions. Now the fight will probably have to go ahead behind closed doors. What did you make of him walking away from the fight for the time being?
Funny you asked me that because I was literally about to ask you the same question. I was going to bring it up. It makes sense. It does. I'm sorry, but if Billy Joe Saunders is going to take the highest pay day of his career, you're not going to rob the man of a few millions, You have to pay him his exact amount, right? And also, he knows how much of a dangerous fight it is, so why is he going to risk, an improper camp or whatever you want to say and risk it going into a Canelo fight? He's got the ability to beat Canelo. That's the thing. This is a fight that people look at and say, this may be Canelo's hardest test to date in terms of styles. So he's obviously going to take it seriously and he needs the time to sort it out. It's not like he's ducking or diving around Canelo. The guy was going to take the fight in May. It was, from what we remember, it was already confirmed. It was literally the day they were maybe going to put it out. They held back because of the pandemic rising. That day was the day that everything went backwards. So I'm with him on this. I think as much as a fan I want to see it, I'm with him. He needs to make the full amount. If they're not going to take any money off Canelo, why are they going to take it off Billy Joe? It's not fair.
Yeah, I kind of sympathise to an extent, but I think the training thing's the issue, really, because I think 8 weeks, if he started training now, is still long enough to get ready. Like Kovalev was given an abbreviated training camp, wasn't he, after the Yard fight to fight Canelo? And yes, it didn't work out for him, but I don't think it was just because of that. And a lot of people have been looking at it, and it's not a great comparison, but a lot of people have been looking at it. I discussed this on the vlog recently. Jorge Masvidal over in the UFC taking the Kamaru Usman fight at 6 days' notice. Now, there are nuances here because he was originally training for Usman about a month ago. That fell through. Burns came in. He then dropped out, and now Masvidal's back in. So it's not like he's had no training camp or that he's suddenly been sprung with an opponent he wasn't expecting. However, if someone can jump into a fight of that magnitude, a title fight at 6 days' notice, and I know they don't get paid as much in UFC and they don't get the same opportunities, and I can understand why he feels the need to grasp it now. Also, the fact that if you take a loss, it's not as big a deal in UFC as it is in boxing. But it doesn't paint not just Saunders, but boxers generally in a good light when they're saying, we need 8 weeks, we need 10 weeks. And it's a divisive issue. I think there's a lot of boxers that would say, well, if it's a hugely important fight, I need the amount of time I need. And that's it, like Amanda Serrano recently against Katie Taylor.
It's a weird...
Say, someone like Canelo, there's a queue of fighters around the block who want to fight him. He's the new Mayweather in that sense, in that, you know, he's the money tree, isn't he? And so you give up a fight with Canelo, will it ever come again?
Yeah, no, exactly. No, you have to take the opportunity. And I read something, you know, I do still defend Billy Joe in the fact that, you know, he should be getting his full wages in that fight. But, you know, someone put out, if you're a boxer who's making, you know, like multiple millions in a fight or hundreds of thousands in a fight, and it's your full-time job, you should be ready whenever the date. You know, you should always be ready. But it's just it's a weird situation. You gotta feel sympathy for Billy Joe, but also this Usman thing coming along. You know, him taking that fight. But then again, that's not the biggest fight for Usman. Of course, the title fight but he has a chance to fight McGregor as well in the future. So would he be the same against McGregor? Who knows? Maybe he'll be like, I need 8 weeks, or pay me the right amount of money.
Yeah, possibly. I just think it's a stick for UFC fans to beat boxing fans with, isn't it? And it's one we could do.
Yeah, but you got to give it to the UFC, man. Oh my god. Oh my god. I am like, that card that they've put on is ridiculously good. That is one of the best UFC cards of this year, let alone this whole lockdown thing. Boxing's not going to get a card like that for another, at least till the end of 2021. Not just because of the pandemic, because of boxing politics. We need one organization. We just need it, man. This is not fun. You're killing the sport.
PBC gave it their best shot. You know, I mean, they tried, didn't they? But
I kind of wish they bought out the PBC belt. That would have caused some controversy. I wanted to see what would happen if they bought that out. The PBC World Championship.
Now, we've got a couple of questions from at Big Right Hook, our friend over there. He actually submitted 3 questions, but I didn't like the last one, so I'm going to ignore it. The first one: what lessons can boxing learn from UFC, which leads, you know, from what you just said, and football, maybe less so, with regard to promoting fighters and fights? What do you think? Because you're a big UFC fan, certainly a bigger UFC fan than me. What can boxing learn in terms of promoting, marketing, all that kind of stuff?
The only thing boxing can learn is make one organization. What else can you learn from? There's nothing else to learn. If you can't tell a promoter, oh, do it like the UFC, because they can't. As much as they tried to do it, and they, you know, even Eddie and Matchroom are taking that type of approach. You don't have all the fighters under one banner. I do like how Eddie did say though in his podcast that, look, if you're not gonna fight this fighter, we're not gonna mess about with you. We're gonna move straight on to the next. That's kind of what UFC do. So he's taken that approach, but still, you know, it's hard to take a lesson from it because there's one organization. Boxing is so many. What about you? What's your answer to that?
I think the kind of whole Matchroom back garden thing is a bit of a nod to UFC as well in terms of like Fight Island. I think having your own kind of condensed ecosystem where all the fighters, all the officials, all the media, or any media you do have, broadcasters, stay, get quarantined, obviously, take the tests, and then carry on with the show. And obviously Top Rank have done similar, but maybe not made as much of a benefit of the venue. I think that's pretty cool. They've kind of taken something that would normally be a disadvantage and made it into a positive. You know, Fight Island, it sounds better than Fight Camp. You know, no offense to Matchroom, Fight Camp's pretty cool, but I mean, Fight Island, it sounds like, you know, just something. It sounds like an adventure, doesn't it? It sounds like, you know, you're going to fly in. in your helicopter land, watch the fight surrounded by, ring card girls and champagne. It's obviously not going to be like that at all. But they've made a virtue out of something that would normally be a drawback, and I think that's pretty cool. But just generally, I think the way they build fights up as well, I think the way they sort of have a plan in mind, long distance, and because they've got the benefit of being one cohesive organisation instead of the disparate sport that boxing is, they can afford to do that. They can plan a fight a year in advance and be pretty confident that if they match their guys correctly in the interim, it's still going to happen and it's going to do huge business.
I just got a comment here about the whole Billy Joe thing we were just talking about. My boy Benny Martinez, he's not really my boy, I don't know who he is, but he put, why does the champion have to lose money? Billy Joe's a bleep. He wants to fight tune-ups. The bleep is that dude, be quiet, you don't know about boxing. First and foremost, Billy Joe is the champion. Billy Joe is the champion in the fight against Canelo. So, exactly, you just
said the first hurdle, Benny.
Yeah. So
these are sort of comments you get on Behind the Gloves, right?
So my guy said, I don't know anything about boxing. Well,
did he actually say that though, or did he use the abbreviation? That's what I want to know.
No, he said, why does a champion have to lose money? Billy Joe's a bleep. He wants to fight tune-up fights. What the F is that dude? Be quiet. You don't know about boxing. Love you, Bernie, bro.
Yeah, thanks, Benny. Stay watching, mate. We appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, Billy Joe is the champion, and he can kind of do what he wants. I guess all I'd say is that at the age he is now, and having had the career he has without that defining fight yet, at some point you have to dare to be great, and that might mean taking the short end of the purse split to do so. However, Billy Joe is known as being a consummate and impressive businessman as well as a good boxer, and I understand why. There's sense on both sides, there's logic on both sides, and Canelo's hardly going to be short of a dance partner. I just hope it's not, and no offence to these guys, an Anthony Dirrell or a Willie Monroe Jr. I still want it to be as prestigious a fight as it can be. I spoke to John Ryder earlier, that'll go up maybe tomorrow or the next day, and he was pressing his claims for that fight, and when he compared himself to some of the guys that have been talked about, like Monroe and like Dirrell, Ryder's better than both of them and deserves the shot on both of them. For a lot of people, Ryder's the young champion.
Yeah, exactly. Especially after his performance against Callum Smith, he definitely deserves it. He's definitely up there with Callum Smith and Billy Joe. He just doesn't have the title to say so. But if you watch the fight against Callum Smith, he deserved the shot.
Yeah, exactly. Now, as much as we enjoy Benny Martinez's erudite comment, we're going to go back to our friend Big Right Hook. Got two questions on the same show. Either we're short of questions or we really like him. I'll let viewers decide which it is. He says, how far should the boycott of Jarrell Miller go? Should the boxing media stop using his name for clickbait after a certain time?
Hold on.
Glasses coming on there. Here we go. Serious.
We can use anything as clickbait. Yeah. That's all I'm saying. Come on, guys. You love a bit of clickbait. Come on. Yeah, you love a bit of clickbait. There's nothing wrong with a bit of clickbait. There's nothing wrong with that. Just pour some clickbait on it. But no, the boycott. There's no boycott, right? We made it clear in last week's episode. He should be banned from the sport. But there's no boycott's not the word. Just ban him. That's it.
It's whole thing, yeah, I mean, it's not the media's responsibility to outlaw a drug cheat. No. It's the sanctioning body's obligation, and promoters, if they wanted to have kind of an unwritten accord between them to not promote his fights, then fair enough. But that's less likely to happen than a media blackout. It's just silly. We're commercial entities, as all media organisations are, and we're going to use whatever gets us the views we want. That doesn't mean we'll kind of pander to someone like Jarrell Miller, and I haven't interviewed him since this has happened anyway. I haven't pursued it, but we're not going to pander to someone. We're going to ask him the tough questions, and we're going to be critical. However, if we think there's questions that boxing fans would like to see answered, and there's loads of questions about Jarrell Miller that people are still interested in, then we're going to ask them. We've got a duty to do that, and it behooves us from a commercial perspective to do it as well.
For sure.
So take that.
Nail on the head. What else have you got?
What else have I got? Well, we've talked about Frank Warren coming back. Seems to be some rumours now that the Umar Sadiq-Lerone Richards fight, which for a lot of people is their pick of the Frank Warren produce, if you like, to use an American pronunciation, has been delayed or is going to be delayed for reasons unknown. Sadiq kind of talked about it on social media. Sam Jones, who manages Lerone Richards, hit back. What's going on, and how big a loss is it?
Said on Twitter, because I've kind of missed it. What's been said on Twitter?
So Umar Sadiq said something about it's not going to happen on time now, and also the title's not going to be on the line. And then Sam Jones came back and said something like, the title is definitely going to be on the line, and the reason for the delay will be made very clear soon. So all a bit mysterious, but if it isn't on that kind of first set of Queensberry promotion shows, it's a bit of a loss, isn't it? Because that's a fight that certainly I was looking forward to.
Just going back to the same thing we mentioned in the beginning. UFC's winning, and this is even a point proven, even with domestic level fights. We can't even get those done properly. I mean, God willing, they're not injured or anything's bad happened, but if it's just, again, to do with hoo-ha and all that stuff, it's tiring, Danny. It's so tiring, bro. I just want to see the fights as a fan, and I want to see it done. Look, you know what? My friend was telling me that, you know, UFC is gaining a lot from this pandemic in terms of a lot of fight fans are starting to learn more about the UFC, tune into the UFC, and MMA as a sport, but UFC as an organization can, you know, essentially take over the combat sports side. Boxing was on top for so many years. I feel like the UFC is coming in now even more than ever and taking over.
We've got a comment on our live stream from Brit MK2 who says, and this is one for the technical guys if they're listening, my right ear is being deprived just like Dillian. So maybe there's an issue with mono or stereo audio there, but we can look into that for you, Brit MK2. I'm not sure about Dillian being deprived though, as he's about to headline a pay-per-view during a virtual shutdown. But yeah, that's something we can talk about anyway, because August 22nd, boxing's first UK pay-per-view since the lockdown.
Boxing's first super fight.
Well, boxing's first pay-per-view since the lockdown. Are you going to pay for it? If it's $19.95, as most pay-per-views are on Sky Sports box office, are you going to pay for it, Fuad Abdul-Aziz?
I don't think it'll be $19.95, but if it is, if I'm not doing it, I will probably pay for it though, won't I? I want to watch the fight.
Oh, I won't. Not for that price. No way. Not the current card.
It's 20 quid, mate. Come on, stop being a Karen and pull out 20 quid.
Come on. Karen?
You're doing
Karens
a Karen.
Karens are like moany old bags. They're not tightwads. You know, at least get the stereotype right. I'm a miser. I'm not a Karen. No, but seriously, 20 quid, drop in the ocean. What is it they used to say? Oh, it's a round of drinks. It's a night out. It's a night out.
Yeah, mate.
Apples and pears. No, but I mean, I think Taylor Serrano was a really good chief support. That's fallen through. So some of it for me depends on who the replacement opponent is. If it's Taylor Soon rematch or Taylor Chantel Cameron, that might edge it forward. I really like the Clay Congo fight, but it's a hardcore fans fight. It's not a big crossover mainstream attraction. I like White Povetkin. I think they're both top 10 heavyweights in the world. But is it like a mega fight? Does it attract me in the same way White Rivas did? No. And that's the best one I can compare it to because it was about a year ago. It was also Sky Sports box office. And I thought Rivas was a really good fighter. I'd seen him after sleepwalking through most of the fight, jumping out in the last round and destroying Bryant Jennings. I thought, you know, this is a dangerous opponent for Dillian Whyte. Good amateur pedigree. I'm excited. It was a good undercard. This one leaves a bit lacking, and I know there's restrictions because of the current situation and the fact that it's in fight camp and there's no live gate. But if you're going to charge people extra, a pay-per-view fee on top of their Sky Sports subscription, then it needs to be value. Otherwise, people aren't going to do it, even in a boxing kind of abyss where nothing's been going on for ages. So I'd like to see even one really good fight added, and I know it's not going to be Hughie Fury, Dave Allen, despite them talking about it. Whether that qualifies as a really big fight is open to question. I'd like to see either another big fight added or Katie Taylor have a really good, attractive, not, you know, good looking, but attractive as in people are going to want to watch it, replacement opponent.
Well, what other fight would you have on it? Because there is one fight missing on that card. What would you want on it? And what's realistic as well? Not just your feelings, Danny. What do you want as a realistic point of view?
I mean, if Hughie Fury's still available and Dave Allen's not going to take that fight, surely there's someone else. Like, I don't know, Hughie Fury. We've seen David Price come out and save shows before, but maybe not him this time. But someone kind of decent level, well-known heavyweight that people would be interested in watching? I mean, I'd watch Hughie Fury, David Price.
Get Tony Yoka in.
What's that?
Get Tony Yoka in.
Get Tony Yoka in, yeah. Is he not
Tony.
currently suspended? We just need to check. But yeah, no, that'd be a decent fight. You know, Bacoli's fighting Kuzmin. Maybe, what if Bacoli fought Fury and then they found someone else for Kuzmin? That's immediately an upgrade.
Yeah, I like the Bacoli Kuzmin fight though. I like it. It's a good little scrap.
Don't release Michael Hunter. Take the paperwork back.
Don't release okay, we gotta talk about this though. Michael Hunter being let go at Matchroom or splitting ways, whatever you want to say. Bad decision by Matchroom?
In terms of his talent, yeah, but in terms of commercially, probably not. You know, how much does he add to pay-per-view shows or tickets at the gate in Britain as an American fighter who's not got a massive profile? So I can understand the business reasons behind it, but he is better skill-wise, world rating, accomplishments, everything, than some of the heavyweights on the Matchroom roster. He's beaten Bacoli and Kuzmin, who are fighting each other on the August 22nd show. So that's kind of a damning indictment of the decision, isn't it?
Exactly. But I was gonna say as well, like if you're gonna try to build like the UFC where you want a lot of fighters under your banner, keeping someone like Michael Hunter is key because from a boxing fan point of view, a lot of people do know he doesn't have a massive profile like you mentioned, but skill-wise, this guy brings some value to the table.
So we've got a question on the live stream here from Central Scott, although he says his name's Robbie afterwards, so that's an alias. Robbie here, Danny. Hi, mate. Thanks for using my Christian name. Don't know you, but it's cool. Who gives Fury the tougher fight, Joshua or White? It actually rhymes, so full credit for that.
Who gives
Fury the tougher fight? Is it Joshua or is it White?
Putting styles in my head, yeah.
Yeah.
Answer, you go.
White. For me, style-wise, yeah. I mean, Joshua's by far the more accomplished, better all-round fighter. But I think in terms of the style, if Dillian White fights the way he fought the first Chisora fight, and he's in Fury, and even the Joshua fight, and he's in Fury's face, denying him space, harassing him, few kind of rough moves in there, targeting the body. I think that's a tougher style-wise fight for Fury than AJ, who is a bit more predictable, a bit more kind of stand-up European style, the sort of fighter that Fury's fought many times in the amateurs and the pros. I think in that case, and he's probably been studying Joshua a lot more because the fight's been talked about for so long, they've come up at the same time than he has White. So I think in this case, it's probably better the devil you know.
But I don't know, stylistically put it like that, but you're comparing it to the Derek Chisora fight. Fury's way bigger than Derek Chisora. He's got a completely different way of getting out from Dillian White. He'll just dance around him. Not saying he'll beat him. I'm just saying.
Varlin fight. And Fury got cut early, which didn't help his cause. But Varlin took the fight to him, didn't give him much time to think or breathe. And Fury likes to have that time and space, I think. And if you deny him that, like Varlin did, Varlin didn't win the fight, obviously, but he did make it a tough night's work for Fury.
I don't know. That's a good question. I think there's arguments on both sides. I can't really pick one. But Joshua, you say he's got that stand-up European style, but after that Ruiz fight, he showed us a different side to him. It looked like he was reaching to coming into his peak, but then after the loss, he just rose back in another straight line of the graph, you could say, with that performance in terms of he offered something completely different. So for me, the Joshua fight's an unknown because I want to see how both of them approach it. But I can see where you're coming from with your Dillian White argument. It's just is Dillian White fast enough on his toes to keep up with Fury? Wallin was a different type of heavyweight in terms of I think he's bigger than White.
He is correct.
Yeah, so he could get to Fury in certain ways. But can White do that with his size and his speed? Is that possible? Then that's where you go. Maybe Joshua's harder. But it's a good question. It's a very good question. But I think there's arguments on both sides.
And just before we round off, it's a bit of a curveball, this one, but this is my question, if you like, and I'm happy to answer it as well. But out of all the fights that have been announced for both Fight Camp and the 3 Frank Warren shows that have been announced, and taking aside any fighters that have got dates booked for later in the year,
yeah,
who is not on those shows that you'd have liked to have seen?
Josh Kelly.
Oh, you took my answer.
Didn't even have to think about that.
Tell us why Josh Kelly while I think of someone else.
Because number one, he was meant to be fighting. Michael Hunter's just messaged me. Check that out. My mate Michael Hunter's just messaged me. That's quite cool.
Michael Hunter. What's he saying?
Michael Hunter. He just said, "What's good?" I messaged him a couple of days ago.
So he's not watching this. It's not in response to us discussing him, unfortunately.
Imagine if he is. Sorry, Michael. What were we talking about? Josh Kelly, right?
Josh Kelly, yeah.
First and foremost, I'm a massive Josh Kelly fan. I love the guy. His personality inside the ring, outside the ring, his swaz. He brings something completely different to the
You say swaz?
Swaz, mate. Swaz.
Swaz. Brilliant.
It's not even swag, it's swaz. He out of the UK prospects, he's a different fighter, Danny. He's like, our UK prospects, we've got really good fighters, but he's the exciting one in terms of, I love his arrogance in the ring. I like arrogance in the ring. I like seeing it. So anyway, moving to the point, he was meant to be having his toughest fight at the O2 against David Avanesian, which was meant to be a great fight. I think that should have been a fight for a fight camp, and I would have really looked forward to that. But even if that fight didn't happen, I'm just disappointed not to see Josh Kelly, who's not fought for so long, who is, essentially you'd think he was meant to be fighting behind closed doors. In the first stage of the pandemic when they were maybe coming back, it was like, okay, Josh Kelly, Avanesian at the O2, maybe a later date. But now it's like no one's even talking about Josh. Where's he gone?
Yeah, it's a good pick. I mean, it was my pick. But I didn't go first. I should have let myself go first. So I'm going to go for Liam Williams. I think, he's waiting for that Demetrius Andrade shot, WBO title, which will be a really good fight, really interesting fight. But I'd have liked to have seen him sharpen his tools, keep busy during this period. I mean, it could still happen. We haven't heard all the details of the Frank Warren shows yet. But he's just on such a great run. Since he's joined that England camp, the momentum behind him, he's taking guys out. Up at middleweight, where we thought for ages he was a super welter kind of playing at being a middle, he's shown that he's a lot more than that. He's very technically skilled, well-schooled fighter, but also with real, I don't know, what would you call it? Not just aggression, but real kind of nastiness. He's got a real nasty streak to him when he gets someone in trouble, and I love that about him.
Yeah, he's. Those are two great picks, I think, from both of us. I'm glad you said Liam. I'm glad I picked Josh Kelly because Liam Williams is a fantastic pick. He brings he's a nightmare in the ring. Put it like that. He's a genuine nightmare in the ring.
Great picks from both of us. Would you say simultaneous pats on the back? Love it. It's not quite in sync, but we'll work on it for next week.
Yeah, let's do
it. For everyone watching, we really appreciate you. This is Fuad and Flexen, top billing to the younger man, age before beauty, and the shades, of course. Throwing shade and wearing shades. That's going to be our new slogan, I think. If you've enjoyed this, please comment below. Obviously, it will be on the YouTube channels of Seconds Out and Behind the Gloves from now on. And we'll be back next Tuesday at 6 p.m. sharp. See you next Tuesday. Yeah?
See you in a bit, guys.
Thank you.